Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of 12 Days of Workforce Wisdom, Reflections, Realities, and Resets to Wrap 2025 and Power 2026. My return guest today is Dr. Melanie Peacock, joining us all the way from Calgary, Canada. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Melanie is a boutique HR consultant, an educator, a media commentator, and the author of HR Can Be Murder. Welcome back.
Thank you. What a thrill to be here with you. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to dialogue and love the topic. What a great way is December. It tends to be a month where we reflect, re-energize, refocus. Yeah, lots of R words in there.
Lots of R words that will get me tongue-tied at some point, I'm sure. But let's jump right in with the reflections. So reflecting on 2025, what stood out to you as the most defining shifts in HR? This isn't yours. Yes, it is. Particularly around inclusion, leadership behavior, and the expectations employees now place on their workplaces.
So, Kirsten, one word I heard over and over and over in texts throughout 2025 was quiet. Quiet quitting, quiet cracking, which was a new one for me.
Quiet what?
Quiet, see, tongue-tied, quiet cracking. Easy for you to say, right? So what that is that's when people are experiencing stress and burnout, but they're keeping it all inside them, right? They're still giving all to their job, but they're not, ties to mental health issues and our wellness on so many dimensions. Quiet complaining, complaining offsite, but not in a venue where they can be heard and have an impact on change. So lots of quiet this, quiet that, quiet. It's cute on some of the different chats that I'm on and different experts and thought leaders I follow on LinkedIn. People said, if I hear the word quiet one more time, I'm going to scream. But it was a shift in our understanding.
Yeah.
Not that we didn't think about it before as HR professionals, but it certainly deepened our understanding of the complexity of the organizational culture landscape and employees' engagement in that landscape, and how often so much of it is hidden, quieted, and to reflect on and think about strategically, why does that happen? And what can we do to elevate voices and thought processes as opposed to just saying, oh, it's quiet. One of the things when I deal with clients and I help with various change management or transition initiatives, I have senior leaders come to me and say, oh, things are just going great. And I'll say, well, that's wonderful. So tell me why that's your thought process. Why do you think that? And they'll say, because nobody's complaining. We're not hearing any problems. And right away, I'll say, that's a red flag. When you're hearing nothing in these kind of circumstances, silence isn't golden. And when no one's complaining and you're not hearing any feedback, that's not a good thing. So that all ties into that concept of quiet, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Not to jump ahead too much, I know we're going to talk about thinking ahead into the year. One of the things I'd invite the wonderful people, watching and listening in today is, how can we make 2026 the year of noisy blank? How can we do noisy quitting? And it's beyond interviews, right? How do we really start to help people tell us why they're leaving? Again, exit interviews, I'm a fan of, but are there other strategic things we can do? How do we have noisy cracking? How do we have employees be able to feel psychologically and physically safe to share issues and concerns with us?
I love that.
Noisy job enrichment, right? All those things, noisy engagement. Let's throw that out there and let's make a little noise as HR professionals.
Yes, I love that. Okay, we're gonna get back to that in our reset section, but I want to stay here in reflections for now. You have shaped countless HR professionals through your teaching, through consulting, and of course through thought leadership. What is a misunderstanding or outdated belief that you see HR practitioners continue to struggle with over this past year?
That our work really doesn't make that much of a difference.
Mm.
And I can be guilty of that sometimes. Kirsten, I've been in this profession for over 30, coming up to 35 years. And sometimes when I step back and I reflect and I think, wow, has anything changed? It's the same issues recycled, different ways, maybe a different perspective or lens or description, but are we just doing the same old, same old? Are we addressing the same old things? Have we made a difference? Have we enhanced or impacted anything for the better? And I really feel a lot of HR professionals sometimes struggle with this. We get into the transactional or operational mode. We just do, and we wonder, is it making a difference? And we struggle with understanding our impact. And how timely is we're having a year-end and holiday conversation. One of my favorite holiday movies is It's a Wonderful Life. And the messaging behind it, there's so many layers and messages, but the overall umbrella message to me is one never knows really the impact and the difference and the consequences your life, your actions, your contributions have made to other people.
Yeah.
And while I don't want to get all, thinking each of us is a George Bailey and all those things, but maybe we are. We struggle with our own inner George Bailey. We get so caught up in the day-to-day that we can't understand our impact. And that's it's a frustration, but it's also a beautiful gift, because I feel none of us HR professionals, not the one of us, will really ever understand or truly know the difference we make.
Yeah.
But
until someone is, because I think a lot of times folks are quiet about it, and they're only noisy when there's an issue. They're very quiet with the praise and with the uplifting and providing feedback that's going to make us feel like you mentioned, that we do make a difference and that we do add value. So I love that. That you bring that up. You always give me great insights. Appreciate you.
And so I invite everyone to think about, you don't always have to wait for that external recognition. Maybe take some time. We're very humble in North America, especially we're taught to be, and that's a great trait. But once in a while, it's okay to do this and give yourself a little pat on the back. And I really encourage people to think about, what has my work done, and reflect on purpose and the why. Right? We talk a lot about doing that for employees and building it out into our HR systems and processes. But how about your own why? And I think your own why will lead to a lot of your own what and the difference that you're really making.
I love it. All right, let's shift a bit to the reality, like what's really going on. What is
boom. Sorry.
What is a real world challenge that HR team, and how should leaders balance organizational pressures with people practices?
So one of the current realities that a lot of organization that funnels down to HR professionals is uncertainty. And let me dig down that a little deeper on that. Uncertainty when it comes to budgeting and finances. Uncertainty when it comes to workplace staffing, numbers, requirements. I know I follow you, of course, on different media sites, and posted some insightful things about companies that have been letting employees go and the transitions. And it's really difficult to plan when you're in the eye of a hurricane. So here I am going to be very thematic. Here we are. I'm a big fan of the movie Wicked, with the play, the story, the whole thing, right? And of course, I've just gone to see part 2. And, when you talk about the tornado swirling around you, and you're like looking for a house to drop on you, or, you're looking for people flying around on broomsticks or monkeys with wings, like what's happening there, right? The house about to fall on you is, boom, a big budget cut. The monkeys with wings could be, people are wanting a new program now, or we're going in a different direction. The people on the brooms, good and bad, are in big bubbles and different, like what's happening? What are the leaders going to tell us to do next? That uncertainty And that chaos, being in the eye of a tornado or a hurricane, is really difficult.
Yeah.
But that is a reality. And I would encourage people that means you still plan. You still budget. You do the best you can. Plans are plans, but that's why we don't chisel them into stone. With something to measure against, learn from. Why did they or did they not work or come to fruition? But I really appreciate in that swirl that we're all in the midst of, and we're certainly not in Kansas, that, we're not there anymore, but it shouldn't prevent us from trying.
I love it. Okay, so in a time when the HR function is under immense scrutiny, and I'm using my words carefully here because you know exactly what I'm talking about. How can HR professionals uphold strong standards and ethics in ways that elevate the profession rather than defaulting to this we're policing policies?
Very early in my career, senior executive for the company I was working at, a mentor to me, gave me great advice that's always stuck with me all these years later, 35 some years later. Let your work speak for itself. To me, that is so powerful. I'm going to say it again. Let your work speak for itself. So instead of, as HR professionals, running around and, pardon the expression, beaking off, as you're hearing this from a peacock, beaking off about, we should be doing this, and what about this, and what about this, and, and saying, this isn't right, and this, build those values, build that ethical thought process and your desired output into what you do. And it'll come to fruition. We're not going to policy ourselves out of any of these issues. What we have to do is build it into the work that we do. So, for example, in a training program we offer, how do we make sure it's inclusive and diverse and honoring other people? When we actually do the work, other people will see the benefits. Instead of just telling people, we do it and then we measure it and we share the data. But we let our work speak for what we value. And we become role models is the other way we do this. How we interact and treat other people, when they see that and they see the impact of it, I remain confident and hopeful that will spread.
I love it. All right, we can get back to the resets now, okay? And I'm going to ask for probably a different piece of wisdom than the one you gave earlier in the show. But as we wrap 2025, what resets do you believe organizations and individual leaders need to make to rebuild trust, repair harm, and create workplaces where people can thrive?
Yeah. So how do we make, coming full circle, how do we make those workplaces noisy? Noisy. We ask a lot of questions. I encourage people, let's do it as HR professionals. Let's encourage and help our leaders to ask questions. This is how we reset. This is how we gain new information, new momentum. This is how we advance as people and as organizations. Now, there's a risk in asking questions because you might get information or responses that you don't like. You'll get information or responses that you disagree with. But what an approach if we all approach things with curiosity as opposed to certainty, and we ask questions. And not necessarily that you and I have to agree with each other, not that you will think with the same way. Hopefully you won't think the same way that I do. I always say if 3 people in the room think the same thing about everything in the same way all the time, 2 of those people probably aren't necessary, right? If it's all the same. And, it is a common human facet. I'm pointing my fingers this way. I can be doing this too. It's the mirror effect. We like to surround ourselves with people who remind us of ourselves, who mirror and reflect what we think and how we behave. So what if we really challenge ourselves not to do that? Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the most controversial of all?
Well, that's Snow White, right? That's not wicked. That's Snow
There
White.
There you go. Okay. So then we, say, okay, if we do that, we're going to have some cracks in the mirror, I guess, if we purposely go out and look for people who reflect different things to us. but approach it in a thoughtful, and by that I mean full of thought, so I can process and think about what you've said, even not saying I have to agree with it. But the more you question, the more you ask questions, the more you want to know, inquiring minds want to know. I just think the ripple effects could be profound.
I love that. All right, last piece of wisdom as we power into 2026. What is one piece of year-end wisdom you want HR practitioners, emerging leaders, and people managers to carry with them so they can navigate the workplace with more confidence, more clarity, and more courage?
And at the risk of being redundant, I'm from the podcast department of redundancy. I really think the wisdom that I would share is really get in touch with your own why and your purpose. And we've heard that a lot. And let's be noisy. Let's be loud and proud about that, even in our own heads and in our own tape recording that goes in our minds. And one of the tips or resources I like to use to do that, Kirsten, and I invite and encourage other people to do it, because it's often hard to think about what have we done? I do this sometimes. One day rolls into the next, into a meeting, right? It was just like we're on the treadmill and off we go. So I purposefully, I near the end of December each year, I go back and I look at my online calendar and I walk through it day by day, just quickly. But it reminds me, okay, this is what I worked on. This is what I did. And I think about, what was the outcome of that? What do I think I could have impacted? What did I learn? What might I do differently? But I actually take that time for reflection. And that's not an easy task, right? Because we're too busy doing.
Yeah.
I want to really encourage, and maybe I'm, singing to the people that already understand this, because here they are listening and watching us talk about reflection and reset. But let's do it. Let's not just listen to what other people have to say. Let's do a little bit of reflection and reset. And going through the online calendar helps to do that.
Thank you so much for those insights. Before I let you go, I do need to have a little holiday fun, because this is a holiday series we're having. So, what is your favorite holiday tradition?
My family and I, we love our Christmas stocking traditions. Of course, they look beautiful, hung up by the mantelpiece and, just all the decorations. And we just finished putting up our Christmas tree and all the wonderful things. But anyway, what we do each year is each of us buys a gift, $20 and under, for each other's stockings. And of course, the dog has a stocking. You might see him in the background there. Of course, the dog has to buy for other people. I'm the dog's agent. Spoiler alert on that. But anyway, it is so fun on Christmas morning. We get up, we have our coffee, and yes, our mimosas. Side note, before you join any family, make sure you understand, are they drink mimosas on Christmas morning or go run a 10K race on Christmas morning type of family? Know what you're joining, people. We are the have a mimosa and toast each other and celebrate our love and be so grateful for our family. And then we each open up our stockings. We sit around together and each person takes out one item, and just so much fun to see, items $20 and under, what's in someone's stocking. And again, things don't seem to fit in the stocking anymore. So we have a little gift bag in front too. So people,
Okay.
But it's a lovely tradition.
I love it. All right. And then, do you set New Year's resolutions? And if so, do you have a unique one to share for 2026?
So while I'm a huge fan of goal setting, and I understand the theory and the concepts and the ideas behind it, I do not set New Year's resolutions, because I don't like the idea of a forced time, like thou shalt start on January 1st. There's a lot of research that shows, right? People that set New Year's resolutions because of that hard start date, it's too much pressure. And it's everything going on in January, post-holiday festivities, it makes it even more difficult to set those goals. The old joke about, right, go to the gym on January 2nd, it's packed. Third week in January, not right, blah, blah. But what I do, Kirsten, oops, I said do. What I do is every year I set a word that is impactful for me. It helps me focus throughout the year. What's my intention? And I spend time in December reflecting on that. What will be my word for the next year? And for 2026, my word, after a lot of thinking and just letting it arrive at me, is joy. Yeah, and I have a lot of wonderful things coming up in next year, including a daughter getting married, and just
congratulations.
Thank you. And just the joy of being on the right side of the earth, on the dirt, the joy of being in an amazing profession, surrounded by wonderful people such as yourself, the joy of watching people thrive and give back. Exhibit A, you again.
Thank you.
Just, it's a joy. And no, I'm not oblivious to the hardships in our world and in anybody's world. And I'm not oblivious to the ups and downs in my own life, but that doesn't negate joy. And that's going to be my word and my intention for 2026.
I love that. And I love that no one that I've talked to on the podcast so far for these last episodes has New Year's resolution. I'm thinking about scrapping that question because everybody's like, no, I don't do that. But I do. Some people have words. Some people, like you said, set goals, or they just say, here's what I do. But we'll see. I might find, if I can find one person with a resolution, maybe that's the outdated thing that we need to let go for 2026 is resolutions, because find anyone that sets them anymore.
Well, are you going to set a New Year's resolution?
I don't do resolutions. I do a word as well. That I like to bring to into the new year, something that I like to focus on, something that I like to be my guiding light for the year. And I got that from you, from your last episode. You talked about the guiding light a lot. So not the TV show. Oh yeah. not soap opera. Does that even come on anymore?
I don't know, but now I hear the theme song in my head.
Yes.
Like Sands? Oh, that's Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. Okay, that's my show. I don't watch it anymore, but that was my Days of Our Lives was my show.
So have you chosen your word?
I have not. I've thought a lot about it, and I'm not there yet. It's probably not going to be cliche. It's not going to be like any trap word. It's not going to be trust, relationships, or accountability, or proactive. It's not going to be any trap word. It's going to be something that speaks to what I want for myself for the coming year, I would say, or what I want to reflect for the year. So we'll see. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I got a couple of friends who are pushing me to do some things to stretch myself. It's the ways I may not be comfortable with. So maybe it'll be stretch. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. But
sounds wonderful, and I'm confident you'll get there. And
I'll definitely let you know. I mean, I'll post it. You'll see it on the internet, but I'll definitely ping you and say, here we go. Dr. Melanie, here's my word. All right. So I want to thank you again for being a guest, for being so gracious with your time, and for sharing your wonderful insights. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And please come back for another episode of 12 Days of Workforce Wisdom. We're going to have more reflections, more realities, and more resets to power you into 2026. Thanks, everyone. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays.